Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 364.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode. We hope you're keeping well and safe. We hope you've had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related.
Hey, we're back in the swing of it now, mate. Look.
Yeah, pro podcasting again.
Straight back in it.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I hope you had a good one, peeps, and you enjoyed our comeback, quote-unquote, comeback episode last week where we reviewed the power of the Doctor. We had loads of really cool comments and feedback for you guys leaving your scores and your mini reviews and stuff. So thank you so much again to you guys for that. And stark contrast to this week with our Torchwood episode, we've had hardly any. So yeah, a little bit of a change up. So apologies. So when we recorded last week, towards the end of that episode, we said we were going to do the Silurians, the third Doctor story this week, but as fate would have it, once again, just been a bit busy this week. So we haven't got time to watch a million parts of Classic Who, unfortunately. So we're going to get back onto Torchwood, and the upside of doing that is once we've kicked back on the Torchwood trail today, it means we'll have finished up all of Torchwood by the end of this year. So towards the end of December, we would have recorded and reviewed all of them. So that'd be good.
How many episodes have we got left of Miracle Day? Because the annoying thing with the Blu-ray, I'm sure you're watching them on BritBox or whatever, but I'm still using the good old-fashioned Blu-ray. The annoying thing is it doesn't have the episode numbers or names or anything on the box or the discs. It's really frustrating. So I'm putting in the disc trying to find which episode we're on. Yeah, I put in the first disc and I was like, oh, Immortal Sins isn't on this one. Eject, and because obviously it's been so long since we watched it that I couldn't remember where we were at with it. But yeah, how many have we got left?
Yes, so out of 10, we're going to do number 7 this week. So we have 3 remaining.
7. Yeah. Oh, that's not too bad. It's not too. Do you know? I know you were saying about the comments there, mate, and I know we're well aware that the Torchwood Miracle Day is so far falling a bit flat, and people are not really enjoying it much and stuff. And also, yeah, I think people are looking forward to us getting out of the way. But you know what? In a strange way, I was actually really quite looking forward to getting back into this, because although the series hasn't been the best so far, I've got to know, there is something there that, there's enough to keep me invested in it. So I think having a break from it as well, apart from trying to remember what happened up until this point. Luckily, they do the recaps and stuff. But yeah, apart from that, I've sort of was almost looking forward to watching this week. I have to be honest. It's there's enough going on to sort of keep me invested. But I get why people are a bit like, every time we say we did Torchwood, like, oh no, not Torchwood. We will get it done, and there's no way we're not going to finish. We're not going to just stop reviewing it after. So we'll get this series in the can. But I'm all right. I'm drifting along with it okay now. Now we've sort of got this far. I'm not loving it, but and this week's episode's certainly an interesting one. So I'm kind of looking forward to talking through it. But yeah, but when we decided to switch round, I didn't groan and think, oh no, not Torchwood. I was thinking, I actually felt like I wanted to see our little Torchwood gang, because we've had a bit of a break from them. So yeah, but I think this is an interesting one to talk for as well. Immortal Sins.
Immortal Sins, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of stuff that we've been up to, Doctor Who-wise and whatnot, I haven't done anything Doctor Who-y this week other than watch Torchwood, obviously. But I know that you've been somewhere Doctor Who-y, bud. What have you been up to?
Yeah, so we had a BFI event last weekend. They showed the Time Meddler, the classic First Doctor story, which was another great event. And we got to see a couple of exclusive little extracts from the new extras, which of course are great. I mean, the standard of the new extras that we get for these Blu-ray sets has become so high that they are just such a treat, aren't they? So we got to see a little bit of a behind the sofa. What else did we get to see? Gosh, I forget now, but a little bit of the Matthew Sweet interview. Interestingly, he he interviews William Russell on this, the In Conversation with Matthew Sweet. He interviews William Russell, and I think he said it was recorded in like 2018 or something. So, they're planning quite far ahead with these releases, it seems. I'm sure at the start he said something like, so here we are, 2018, blah, 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 William Russell. And I was like, 2018? Blimey. So, yeah, it was another great event. Unfortunately, our roving reporter, Maria, was ill and couldn't be there. And so we won't get one of her fantastic in-depth write-ups about it. And it's no good relying on me, because I was straight to the bar afterwards, as always. Sorry to not be too in-depth about the actual day. But it was another great event, mate. And I was wondering how like an early black and white would go down with the audience, because even, something like the Time Meddler, which is, I think is a good story, there are a lot of there's a lot of panning shots of like the sets and eerie monk music, and there's a bit of padding, to say the least, in certain episodes. And I was just wondering if the audience would get a bit restless, but it went down really well. And watching it again, I'd forgotten how many great lines William Hartnell gets in it. He gets some really funny dialogue in that episode, like space helmet for a cow and all that. And and there was lots of laughter, a lot more than I was expecting for an old classic black and white Doctor Who. So, yes, it was really good to see on the big screen. Peter Purvis was there in attendance. He come and did a little talk on stage, and he was very entertaining. He's quite frank, which I always quite like that when you get someone. I mean, it can be a bit awkward sometimes when you get someone that will speak their mind, but he sort of towed the line a bit. But he's quite a frank, open and honest person when he's being interviewed. So we got some good stuff from him. We also had and I've forgotten the actor's name. Who was the meddling monk in it? The guy from the Carry On films. His name's just completely gone. Well, his son was there, and so it was lovely to hear him talking about seeing his dad on screen. And interestingly, he said he'd never seen it before. He was like, my dad, I was known for the Carry On films and stuff.
Peter Butterworth.
Peter Butterworth, thank you. Yeah, who does give such a great performance in it. So his son was there. And he just said it was just so lovely to be watching his dad on the big screen in something that he'd never seen before, even though that he said, he was a big Doctor Who fan when he was a kid, and he used to watch it with his dad, but he said he'd never seen that one, so that was good. And also, the person who got me the ticket and was sat next to me, our good friend Morgan McCandles, had also never seen this episode. So it was great, because I was sort of knowing that there were a few little nuggets in this, like the monk's TARDIS, that surprise reveal, and the monk being revealed as a Time Lord and stuff. I was just really intrigued. Like every time something like that dropped on the screen, I would look to the right to see Morgan's expression, because he'd never seen it before. So that was really cool, just to be with a Doctor Who fan who was experiencing that story for the first time. And I don't know about you, I sort of forget that it's got some quite important moments in Doctor Who's history, like the reveal of the monk and who he is, and you get a bit more of the Doctor's backstory, for the first time, and then the TARDIS, another TARDIS, the monk's TARDIS and stuff. There's some sort of quite important moments in that story, which are kind of firsts for Doctor Who then. So yeah, it was really interesting to see it with someone who'd never watched it, and also with all the guest cast and stuff. So another great day, mate. Those BFI events just continue to be fantastic. Probably they are still, I think, my favourite events that are put on. I know they're always in London, and I do feel for people that would like to see them do them in other parts of the country. But yes, if you can ever get to these events, they're worth it. If you can ever get a ticket, I mean, they sell out so fast now. I don't know, yeah, there's nothing. I don't know how you can get a ticket if you don't get there on the day, because they do absolutely fly out. But yeah, worth it.
It is worth it. Yeah, we say that all the time, don't we? If you can get down there to the BFI, it's just a really cool day. Not just the fact that and anyone that's listened to our show for a long time will know that we say it's like a broken record almost with us. It's very cool watching Doctor Who with lots of other Who fans in a cinema. It's just something that brings out the moments and the themes from the story that you don't necessarily get just on the sofa by yourself. Like you mentioned that there are some quite funny bits in it. Yeah. And typically when you're watching classic Who, especially at the BFI, those humorous moments are a lot funnier for some reason than just watching it at home and things like that. So yes, if you can, they do them probably 3 or 4 times a year, I would say. So they're on reasonably frequently. So if you can get to one, and if you haven't been to one yet, it's defo worth it. Defo.
Yeah, the atmosphere things are definite. I mean, as I said, I wasn't sure with it being a black and white ep how it was going to go down. But there was a lot of laughter. And Hartnell's performance just really came across so well on screen, you know. And when I say laughter, I don't mean people laughing at it, you know, it being bad or anything. I mean, just stuff like Hartnell's so irascible, you know, as his doctor, but he's also so charming in scenes. There's a lovely scene with him and Vicky at the start, where he's talking about Barbara and Ian leaving. It's just beautifully done. And then in the next scene, you know, he's like poking the monk in his with a stick in the back, going, "Go on, move," and getting all cross. And it was just lovely to see Hartnell being so great on screen, and B, just getting such appreciation, because I love Hartnell's Doctor, and I do think he's underrated. And I said to Morgan, I said, you know, even though I love Hartnell's Doctor, when I watch him like that on the big screen, I just realise that even I don't appreciate him for how good he was. Like when he's on form, and he is on form in that episode, without a doubt, he was so good as the Doctor. So yeah, but that really came across watching it with other people in a cinema. It really, really came across, you know, that people were enjoying him as the Doctor, because he gets some great moments in that story. So yeah,
very cool. Very, very cool. Right. So that's the BFI event done and dusted up. The next one actually is probably going to be next year now, isn't it?
It will be, yeah. for whatever the next box says. Sorry, actually, just for listeners that don't know about these events, basically every time a Blu-ray set gets released, or is about to be released, because this one hasn't been released yet, the BFI, British Film Institute, do these screenings of an episode from the box set in London, and basically just you sit in there's like a cinema, very cozy cinema, and watch Doctor Who on the big screen. So just for any, you know, I was thinking our US listeners or whatever might not know what I'm talking about, BFI, but yeah, that's basically what it is. It's watching Doctor Who in a very cozy cinema. It's lovely.
Cool, yeah. And that's the thing, the Blu-ray sets, and they did that with other stuff as well, not just Doctor Who. So
oh yeah, sorry, they do. Yeah, they don't just open a cinema for Doctor Who. That would be cool, but no.
Yes, yeah. You and I went to the Wurzel Gummidge one that they did, which was amazing.
Oh, wasn't that great?
Yeah, I think that's coming out soon, you know. That must be due out soon, isn't it? The Wurzel Blu-ray set.
I'm so glad you reminded me, because I you know, that was so long ago now, that I'd actually forgotten about that. I'm gonna check that out as soon as we finish recording, and that must be coming out soon, because that was so long ago we went to that event.
It must be soon, yeah.
It must be soon.
Yeah, and they do some very cool stuff there. So just check out the BFI website and make sure you signed up to. I'm sure they do an email newsletter where they'll pop out all the cool stuff and things that are coming up. But there was a really good one for Halloween. I think our friend was it Will was there to watch Ghost Watch on Halloween. You know, that BBC sort of little horror documentary thing that was out years ago. Michael that they banned.
Parkinson.
Yeah. So they played that at the BFI, and he was there. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, just some very cool stuff. Anyway, that's the BFI. Shall we land some news? Shall we land some news?
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Land some news. Shall we land the TARDIS and do this one little incy bit of news? Shall we do it? Rightio, very quickly then, we're going to talk about how the Power of the Doctor did the other day in terms of viewing figures last week. And not terrible, actually, not too bad on this one. So this is the consolidated figures. So this lumps in all together the just everywhere that people have watched the episode. And this is also ratings for the 17th to the 23rd of October as well. So in a nutshell, done pretty well. 5.3 million viewers. Take or leave a few viewers, making it the second most watched program on the Sunday and the fifth most watched program overall for the entire week. Which, dude, is, you know, in terms of how that relates in contrast to other shows that have been on that week, that's pretty good. So top of the charts obviously went to the expected ones that are out this time of year. So Strictly Come Dancing is the top one,
Why is that so popular? People love it, don't they?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I've never watched it.
Yeah. And then the results show for Strictly Come Dancing is also very popular. Then the Great British Bake Off, and then ITV's Doc Martin was 4th, and Doctor Who was 5th. So, not terrible, dude. Not terrible at all.
No, I mean, it's all right. I don't know. I was expecting a little bit more. I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, when you break it down, it was actually watched live by 2.37 million viewers, which seems very low for a live viewing figure. And then it gained a bit overnight and was like, I think the overnight figure came in at 3.5. So we've added on a little bit more in terms of viewers since then. 5, but it doesn't sound a massive figure off the bat, but when you put it in sort of position, like you said, it's the second. Do you say it's the second most watched program that week? The
second most watched for the Sunday, and
for the Sunday,
and fifth most for the week. Yeah,
yeah. So I mean, when you put it like that, I suppose that's the important thing. It's not as if like it's been trounced in the ratings by other shows. It's still in a reasonable position in terms of what other shows got viewing figures for. But so yeah, it's a good result. I think I just was hoping it would sort of creep up towards the 7 or 8 really for a regen. But yes, I'm not playing it down. It's still a good result. You know, second most watched program that day is cool.
Yeah, not too bad. So that must put the smile on some faces of people at the BBC and Jodie and whatnot as her last hurrah, if you like, as she bows out of the Doctor. So it would have been, fairly crappy for her if it was like 2 million viewers or, something like that. So
that's true. Yes. I mean, that would be disaster, wouldn't it? And I know a lot of people play down the viewing figures, and I do get why. But me personally, I'm always quite interested in the viewing figures. So I'm not saying they're like the be-all and end-all. I know viewing habits have changed and all that, but I still like to know what the viewing figures are. I do sort of check Twitter the following day to see what the overnights are. So I still find them interesting. But yeah, not too shabby. Not too shabby
at all. Righty. Okay, no other news to talk about, really. Nothing else going on. So we're going to dive into our review, which is what today, dude?
Yeah, let's crack on with Torchwood Miracle Day, and this episode is called Immortal Sins.
Somebody's taken on Wen Reese, my mother, the whole bloody family, and they've said if I bring you, they'll let them go unharmed. They want to kill you, but why do they want to do that?
I don't know.
Well, you've done something, haven't you? Way back when, in the long bloody life of yours. Now you think. Think!
I'm on a kind of unofficial visit. Maranzano's people have stumbled across something they're not supposed to have. I've got to stop them. What's all this? A weapon.
Out of all the shit we have seen, all the bloodshed,
Stop right there!
all the horror, do you know what is worse than all of that? I loved it.
This is the story of my life.
This is about my daughter. And I swear, for her sake, I will see you killed.
Oof.
Oh, Gwen, not taking any nonsense there.
No nonsense at all from Gwen. Just cool. Right, okay, so Immortal Sins, which is part of Miracle Day from Torchwood, and it was first broadcast in the US on the 19th of August 2011, and we got it the week after on the 25th of August 2011. It was written by Jane Espenson. It was directed by Gwyneth Horder-Payton, stars the usuals, plus a couple of fairly big co-stars in this episode, and then a bunch of like really small peeps. The official synopsis is very short and sweet. Gwen must fight to protect her family. She takes a terrifying journey covering miles and decades with Jack as the long history of the miracle is partially revealed. So what are your thoughts on this one, dude? Because last time when we reviewed the Middlemen, that was called, that was quite a relatively shocking episode, that one. We learnt about the present day stuff that's going on with the camps and the giant ovens and all that stuff. So this one was a little bit of a departure from that. We haven't got so much of the big conspiracy theory stuff going on and all that. This is more of a deep dive into Jack's history more than anything, and I think we're sort of turning a corner now as we're going to find out what this miracle stuff is. So yeah, a bit of a change up. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, something a bit different this week, wasn't it? I'm very conflicted on this one, to be honest with you. I'm so glad I was watching it on my own, especially those first 10 minutes. Yes, a little bit naughty. I'm conflicted because I thought it was an intriguing story. It was, like you said, something a little bit different. And it sort of kept me invested. I wondered where we were going with it and how it was going to tie in with, bringing forward the main story arc of who's behind the Miracle Day, which it actually kind of did. I mean, I was beginning to wonder where it was going halfway through, but it kind of did bring us a little bit closer to the Miracle Day answer and who's behind it and stuff. So that was all right. It kind of weaved that in. I thought the performances from the cast were really good in this episode. Barrowman obviously loving the fact that he's got an episode centered around him, seems to be sort of grabbing it with both hands and going with it. He gives a good performance. And I thought the production values were good in it as well. It actually looked like quite a dark and gritty episode. So there's a lot of positives there, but I did find it quite an uncomfortable watch for the most part. So I don't know if I actually enjoyed it, if you know what I mean. So decent story, good performances, good production, but uncomfortable to watch. A very adult episode. And I'm not just talking about the softcore porn that we get in the first 10 minutes between Captain Jack and, what's his name? I mean, it's pretty full on. Even I was, I'm a bit prudish anyway, but even I was a bit like, good Lord, for Torchwood, it's a bit strong.
Good Lord.
So we get that, good Lord. So we get that sort of sex scene at the start. Okay, Torchwood, being very adult as it is. And the bit for me that really got me, because I don't like gore really. I can sort of normally put up with Torchwood gore because it's normally OTT and ridiculous and over very quickly. This was very sadistic, that scene where Jack was getting constantly stabbed, beaten, whipped, shot. It was really grim. And I think they showed just about as much as they could possibly show to get away with at the time for what time would this have gone out? 9 o'clock, whenever it went out.
Yeah, quite late.
It was pretty close to the bone, I thought. And nowadays it's probably, they show all sorts on TV. It probably wouldn't even bat an eyelid nowadays, but I found it quite an uncomfortable watch. So yes, I need to talk through this one with you, mate, because I don't really know what I made of it. I thought it was I liked sort of the conclusion. By the time I got to the end of it, I almost breathed out a big sigh of relief of like, I've got through it. But I did think there was something to it. It didn't feel like throwaway. It felt like it gave an interesting sort of backstory to Jack and these 3 people that buy him or whatever, or these 3 mystery people that are being brought into play into the main story arc. So that intrigued me, and the whole scene at the end where they deliver Jack to them and and stuff. So yeah, I'm really not sure about this one. I thought it was a good episode, but I wouldn't want to watch it again. If that makes sense. So it's so grim and horrible and nasty that I probably wouldn't want to watch it again, but it had some substance this week, I thought.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, but I need to talk through with you, mate, because I don't really know what I thought of it.
Yeah. So my thought overall was, it definitely feels like a different type of Torchwood episode. In what I mean by that is what we've had up to now with Miracle Day. It feels very much like we've gone down this path of there's the miracle that's happening, obviously, which is the big arc of the story, but we've not, up to this point, we've not been, the door's not been opened even a little bit for the viewer to find out what that is. So we've just had to flip between the Danes character, the dude, Bill Pullman.
Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about him till the next time trailer. I was like, oh yeah, him.
Yep, so his involvement in how he fits into this from like a celebrity PR sort of point of view. And then the CIA and Rex and what's happened with him and stuff, and then Torchwood, of course. So all we've done is sort of go round in this kind of triangle of the CIA and the doctors. Remember the lovely lady that was killed, the doctor in the oven? Rex's So this one was a very different direction for that, because they just ditched all of that just for one episode to give us a little bit of just one giant flashback almost episode.
I suppose so, yeah.
It wasn't a case of this story moves the plot along in present day, what's happening in Torchwood with the miracle and stuff. It was more a case of we need some exposition going on here, and we haven't done it yet. And if we don't do it, we're going to get to the end of the series and people are just going to be scratching their heads like, well, how did that happen and what happened with that? So I think they've done it now because I think the next 3 episodes are going to be that build up to the big finish kind of thing. So yeah, I thought it was a good change of direction, because I think now that we're sort of 7 episodes in, I do feel like we do need just a little bit of hand holding for what this thing actually is and how it's come about. So it's clear, isn't it? And of course, dear listener, we're very sorry. Our reviews are obviously spoilerific, but this has been out for a long time now. So if you've not watched it yet, then pause and go and do that. But it's clear, isn't it, that the miracle is linked to Jack and his immortality, because that scene that you mentioned where it's really cool actually how that twist happened in the flashback part of the story, because as Adam said, there's a very racy scene towards the beginning, and basically Jack kind of falls very quickly for this
very quickly
this Italian immigrant who steals Jack's visa paperwork at the beginning, but Jack's kind of lenient because we know Jack, he's a bit of a flirt and he likes this nice young looking guy and helps him out, and then kind of falls for him. They fall for each other quite quickly, and but the twist, which is very cool, is that Angelo sees Jack shot in the head and in the stomach and sees him die and stuff. Clearly he didn't know anything about Jack's gift, quote unquote. And so when Jack pops up later, when he's released from, because just to give you a very quick overview, Jack has been sent to New York at this time period to kill this parasite that's going to be planted into the president so that he can't join the Second World War, so that the Nazis win and changes history and everything. So Jack accomplishes that, but in the midst of all that, what they're up to kind of gets the attention of these mob bosses in New York at that time period, like the early 1920s. And so him and Angelo and Jack are like this tag team almost. So Jack kind of likes the idea for a while that he wants to be like the Doctor. He wants a companion. He wants somebody to, knock around with and stuff.
I like that idea as well.
Yeah, because he even says that. I think it's the first time in this series that anyone in Torchwood has mentioned Doctor Who or the Doctor. So, I think he actually says to Angelo, look, there's this guy, the Doctor, who sort of runs throughout the universe and saves everybody, and he always has a companion, so, why not? That's the deal. Anyway, as they're going through this stuff, they get arrested, Jack gets shot, Angelo gets taken to prison, and then when he's released, to Angelo's amazement, Jack's there, waiting for him as he comes out of prison. So he's freaking out. He's like, I saw you get shot, I saw you were dead. And you think that they're going to get back on track. They go back to the same little room and stuff that they rented. They start getting into it as they did in the first bit of the episode. But then Angelo stabs him because he thinks that...
Oh, yeah, it's nasty.
It's a real good twist because Angelo comes from this tiny, tiny little village in Italy somewhere, and he's not been exposed to like these big Western kind of open-mindedness, if you like. So he's very religious. They talk about him and one of his closest friends being the priest that he grew up with and all that stuff. So he's very religious. So the only conclusion that he can come to is that Jack is the devil, or he's some kind of witch or something like that. So he freaks out and he stabs him and he kills him. And then we get on to that scene, the other one that you mentioned, where Jack is chained up in the butcher's place. And so everybody wants to see this freak, I guess. Everyone's like, this guy can come back to life. So like over and over and over again, he's being stabbed and whipped and chained and killed and stuff like that. Anyway, there's this old woman who gets all of, fills up this whole jar full of Jack's blood because she feels like it's got sort of healing properties, I guess, and it's kind of religious, I guess, in a way. So yeah, that's the, just to bring this back for this long-winded thing. It's that's obviously the link to the miracle, right? So something to do with Jack's blood and that stuff is linked to this, and that's why we have the flashbacks, because we need to bring it back to present day, where we have the other little introduction of a little twisty bit at the end, where the whole reason why in present day Gwen has captured Jack is because somebody has contacted her via the magic lenses the eye lenses, which are very cool, and basically said, look, we've got your family. If you don't bring us Jack, we'll kill them. So she obviously puts her family first, captures Jack. She's on a long old drive. And then when we get to the end part of the episode, there's this woman that's like, I've got your family, but then the other people are tortured. Rex and Esther turn up because they realise at the beginning that something's not quite right with Gwen and Jack. So they're like, actually, something's not right here. They track them. They end up, rescuing them from this woman at the end. And she's just like, look, it doesn't really matter. Nothing's changed. You might have rescued your family, because that's the other thing. They contact PC Andy back in Wales. Yeah. He goes to rescue the family. Everything's good. And this woman basically says, look, you might have rescued your family, but nothing's changed. And it turns out that Angelo is still alive.
Yeah.
So he's obviously going to be an old man now. So that's the other little twisty bit. We get to find out that this miracle seemingly is not this kind of like alien thing that's come down to Earth. There's no kind of monster sort of thing going on here. It turns out that this guy, Angelo, that Jack was involved with back in the 20s, that led to this whole people of New York coming to see the freaky dude that comes back to life and capturing his blood and stuff. It's probably linked to that. So it feels like Jack is the catalyst for this whole miracle thing, which is going to be a very cool twist. So I'm very sorry, dude, for waffling on there, but I had to get it out in my head.
Yeah.
Out of my head. But yeah, so the present day stuff, I actually thought was pretty good, because we saw a different side to Gwen. Because up to this point, and Jack even says it in the car. Gwen says it in the car with Jack. She's like, I'm pissed off with you, because even though I'm putting my family first, even now you're trying to talk your way out of it, and you're just going to assume that good old Gwen, who loves Jack, is going to listen to it and untie you, and all the rest of it. So this is something that you and I have been calling out for literally all of Torchwood, all of those episodes in the past where we've reviewed them, and it's been like, why is she flirting so hard with Jack? Why does she want to be with Jack, and all this sexual tension and stuff? And now she's finally like, no, now that my family's involved, you can F off, mate. So let's talk about the present day stuff very quickly, and then we'll get some of those flashbacks. But yeah, Gwen was very cool in this dude, not taking any nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I just love it, because she just knows Jack so well now that even when he thinks he's sort of pulled the wool over her eyes, she's like, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. I know you better than that. I know exactly what you're trying to do. And he's just like, he can't get the better of Gwen. And I think she's one of the few people that Jack, can't pull one over on. She's just such a strong character. I thought those scenes were great in the car, because she gives such a good performance. I kept thinking, though, look at the road, Gwen, because she's sort of got her eyes in the mirror looking at Jack and like, keep your eyes on the road, you're going to crash. But yeah, no, they were really good. And I liked the modern day scenes, and I liked the twist at the end, because like I said, I'm wondering halfway through this episode, got the sort of religious stuff coming in and some very interesting ideas, and you sort of, it's only really towards the end where you sort of twig that this is kind of coming all back, because you keep thinking, why do they want Jack? And you assume it's something he's done, but then this twist that actually it's to do with his immortality, and this is why it goes back to Angelo. And then so we're thinking, so is Angelo the key to everything that's going on? That's a pretty cool idea, actually, that he's somehow taken what he's seen, in Jack's mortality, and that he might still be alive after all these years. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing him again. So that was a good little twist, and a good, another good segment in the story. I just feel like maybe we needed this a little bit earlier on, because we're on episode 7 now, aren't we? And it is a good, so we're starting to finally find out the cause of the Miracle Day, nothing to do with some big alien invasion. It seems it's a much more basic, back to basics plot, which is fine. But I wonder if we should have got some of this a little bit earlier on, just to keep us more invested. I feel like there's been so much filler up until this point that when we do get some good stuff like this, a lot of viewers, and we know this from our listeners' feedback, have kind of already tuned out and given up. Whereas I feel if we'd have got this maybe midway, episode 5 maybe, that would have been a good halfway twist, turning point of, right. You know,
Definitely.
so this is what it's about, or this is what it might be about. Because I'm intrigued now. That's the thing. This is what I say. I'm sort of starting to get into it a bit. You know, I'm thinking, oh right, so this could be. You know, my mind's starting to try and piece together what's going on. Whereas before, I probably wasn't too bothered. You know, so yes, it was good. It was a good twist and one we needed. And for the first time, I wouldn't say like I was itching to see the next episode, but I was intrigued to see the next episode. Like, okay, so we're going to see Angelo. Is he going to be all youthful? And, you know, is he going to be like Jack now? And how are they going to reverse it and all this stuff? So, yeah. But just go, so you were talking about Gwen, though. Yes, as usual. Brilliant. And she's like the iron rod in any episode, isn't she? Even if an episode's flagging, she's just so on point and strong in her performance that you just love her. I just love the fact she takes no bleep from Jack at all. Love it. Yeah, I wish we'd got more of that in series 1 and 2, really. But in terms of like, you know, instead of the sexual chemistry, if you like, between the two of them, I would have much preferred this. But I suppose it's a progression, though, isn't it? She's gone through all that, and she now knows Jack, like, you know, he was, you know, she knows him so well by this point that she actually can stand up to him. So yeah, it was good. It was a good scene. And you are wondering all the way through, what has Jack done? Because she's really, you know, she will never put anyone above her family, will she? That's just, you know, not good. It's not going to happen. Even Jack, she'll throw into the wolves if it means protecting her family, because he probably deserves it. As she said, you know, what have you done now? What is it this time? Well, she knows, doesn't she, that nobody, including those guys at Torchwood, know 100% Jack's history still. Because he's quite aloof, isn't he? He only reveals certain bits when he feels like it. So she knows. And she is, so Eve Miles does a really, really good way. She puts out this performance in this one that you can tell that she's conflicted to a degree. She knows 100%, and she's very confident in the fact that nobody is going to mess with her family. You can tell that so even Jack, like he said, you know, like she said, you're going to try and talk me out of it, and I'm going to be like, you know, good, you know, I love Jack, and I'm going to. She doesn't do that in this one. She knows that her family's at stake, but there is still a level of conflict there, because she says to him that when she joined Torchwood, you know, she loved it. She loved having all of this, you know, the way that Torchwood ran and how she did things. And even though people have died and all that sort of stuff, she still loves it. And you can tell that she really means that, because Eve Miles does this great thing of, she's really upset. Her eyes are like bloodshot and teary and red for quite a while. But at the same time, she's mega angry, because she's like, you've done something, like your past has caught up with you. You've obviously annoyed somebody, and now this is the result. Because of you, my family's now in danger. So that's why she's so angry with her. And there was this bit where you actually thought, hold on a minute, these two are, you know, they're not, because she's basically said, look, if anything happens, I'll kill you. Basically, where you stand. I don't know how she's because he's mortal, of course. She basically says, like, I will, you know, that's the other thing, listener, if you've not watched this, at this point in the game, because of the miracle that's going on, Jack is now mortal. So if he was to be shot, or, you know, his head chopped off or whatever, he's not going to come back. So that's it. So basically she knows that now, so she can threaten him properly. So she's like, if anything happens, I'm going to kill you. And then he has this real kind of menacing, evil look on his face, and basically replies and says, look, my life is now fragile in a way. I don't have the ability anymore to come back to life. So I'm not going to give this away for anybody. So if you try anything, I will kill you. Yeah. Basically, he says, I'll rip the skin off of your skull or something. Something like that, yeah.
So
it's getting a bit heated in that car, isn't it?
Yeah, and you think, bloody hell, this is getting a bit, And then at the end, like, they hug it out, and they're like, yeah, I meant that, yeah, I know, yeah, whatever. And then they crack on. So, those present day stuff, those present day scenes were very cool. It was very much just Gwen and Jack, basically, just getting there, kind of. And I think she also mentions that it's the first time that she feels like the two of them have been honest with each other to that point, and she knows him a bit more. So it's kind of, that was a cool moment, because she says what we were thinking as a viewer, and that is, it's taken something like this to actually get them to talk and reveal some truths and stuff like that. So that was cool. So flashback stuff, dude. Basically a love story, essentially, right? A love story where somebody's come into Jack's life unexpectedly. And at first glance, you just think it's Jack being Jack, flirting all over the place, all the rest of it.
Only one bed. Oh, geez, you know.
Oh, we knew where that was going,
thing.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'll sleep on the floor. Of course you will. We know you're going to, yeah, whatever. And so ask you a question on this, dude. A lot of times when we've reviewed Torchwood right from the beginning, we've often said this thing where they will put sexual content, swearing, adult stuff basically into some episodes. And we've always said, I think bar a couple of times, that they've done that because they can, because it's adult stuff from the world of Doctor Who and it's Torchwood. Sometimes you feel like, well, they didn't really need to do that. It doesn't progress the story in any way. They've just done it for the sake of being adult. What do you think? Because that scene at the beginning was very, very like any listener that's listening to this now and you're thinking, me and my kids have watched all of Doctor Who. I'll probably watch that. I'll probably watch some Torchwood with them. Please don't with your kids, especially this series and this episode. So do you think this was needed, buddy, the graphical content in this one, or did it really highlight the fact that him and Angelo are, falling in love with each other very quickly?
I was a bit torn on that because they were quite strong. I don't, it did seem like the nudity and stuff and the sex a bit gratuitous, but I don't know. It wasn't as like some episodes where you feel it is there for the sake of it. I kind of feel in a sense it was almost justified because it's just showing them the relationship between the two of them, and it's I don't know. I don't think it was gratuitous in the sense of some of the stuff we've had. That does feel like it was just thrown in for the sake of it. I feel like it did have a part in the story with those two, so I can kind of overlook it. Again, I think they sort of. I mean, you do. I don't know. Maybe I think I saw more than I did. It felt to me like it was quite graphic. I remember writing like softcore porn scene that at the start, but the graphic violence at the end as well, with Jack being stabbed. Before I knew the twist, I was thinking this is horrible. This is just so unnecessary. Like I know Torchwood wants to be like an adult show, but this is too much. But then you get the twist of why they're doing it. And I sort of thought, oh, okay, so maybe it was justified having something like that in it. I don't know. To me, this is very close to the bone in terms of drawing that line between teenage adult television. I don't know. Both the sex and the violence in this were pretty strong. But they do at least, I feel, play into the actual story rather than being there for shock tactics, I think. So maybe I could just about justify them. But again, it comes back to, personal taste. I mean, I personally just didn't enjoy watching either of those scenes, and I would gladly never watch them again. But, in terms of the story, I think they were, I don't know, were they needed? I think they were to an extent, if I'm honest. I mean, I just found the whole episode quite uncomfortable to watch, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Everything.
Yeah, I read you.
So it's not a particularly nice episode. I certainly wouldn't want, if I had like kids, I wouldn't want them watching it. Mm-hmm. I really wouldn't. It's definitely, I'm not saying Class levels, because Class was quite violent, wasn't it, as a Doctor Who spin-off? That had quite a lot of, and that was just gratuitous. I mean, Class, the violence in Class was there to make you squirm and grimace, people getting stabbed in the eye and chopped in half. It was trying to be like Buffy, basically, whereas this one is like a very dark, and it is being adult rather than childish, I feel. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like the sex and violence to me feels very adult in this. It doesn't feel sniggering, childish, let's throw some bums in there. It doesn't feel like it feels like they're taking it seriously. So I feel like it is justified in that sense. What do you think though? Or do you think they were just throwing it in because they can? What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the scene needed to be there in terms of Jack and Angelo being together, because it does set up this whole thing around. It's almost like a very fast-tracked thing that we've got with the Doctor and Rose. So we had the Doctor and Rose being all over the Doctor, you know, but that happened over a whole series, you know, and
Yeah.
all that. So I feel like we've got a similar thing here with these two, but it needed to be like really like, we can't do this over 4 episodes. This needs to happen now. So the scene was there and serves a purpose because it brought these unexpected thing together, these two sort of coming together. But I feel like the graphic nature of the scene just wasn't called for. And the reason why I say that is not just because I'm being a prude or anything like that, is that if Jack wasn't this type of person, then maybe it would have been needed. Like if Jack was this kind of reserved character that you never saw him flirt with anyone, never saw him kiss anyone, but then to really highlight the fact that he has genuine feelings for this guy and opens up to him, and then you saw, you know, that stuff unfold on screen, then fine. But really, it's just another person that Jack slept with. So,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? So it doesn't really serve a purpose in that respect. It's not opening up. It doesn't open up your eyes to this unseen personality trait of Jack in any way. It's just, you know, Jack's flirted with this guy. He almost seduces him, doesn't he? Because the guy sees this nice looking woman across the balcony, and then Jack's like, "Oh, you like her, do you?" And he's like, "Yeah, she's nice." And then they kind of do this little role play thing where he's like, Jack's like, "This is what you should say to her to sort of get her into bed," sort of thing. And it ends up working on him and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that he's gay anyway. So it doesn't really matter, the whole she's pretty sort of thing anyway. So I feel like it just wasn't really needed in that respect. But the scene, probably on paper, I think in the script is probably like, okay, we need to see these two sort of get close early on because they are going to be a team, if you like, both emotionally and, you know, all the other stuff. But I think when it came to actual production, John Barrowman's like, actually, we could probably do a bit more here, couldn't we? We could probably flesh this out a bit and make it a bit more racy and stuff like that. So I don't know. But what did you think to before we... I haven't got too much more on my notes, but there was this scene that might also play into this whole miracle thing. Not just Angelo, but Jack is hung up in the butcher's place.
Oh, yeah.
And there are these 3 mobsters that are there. And essentially, they buy Jack like he's a piece of meat because they know about his, you know, his healing powers and all, you know, all that stuff. And they make a pact. It's like, okay, we're gonna buy this thing because he's clearly not human. We're going to buy him, but we're going to share him, you know? So, you know, they put their hands out and they make a pact. So what do you think to that? Because that was, that might be something. The only thing that's going around in my head at the moment is, have they somehow managed to manufacture Jack's ability to regenerate? Not regenerate, because that's, you know, but, you know, to heal and that sort of thing. And these guys have sort of cottoned onto that, and they use Jack as a bit of a walking sort of petri dish, I guess, of, you know, this healing power. So what do you think to those dudes?
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit of a turning point in the episode for me, because up until then I was just really I was kind of looking forward to the episode ending because of the content, and I was just thinking, oh, this is grim. And that was a turning point, because then my sort of uncomfortableness turned to intrigue by who they are and why they bought Jack, and the fact that obviously it plays into him being mortal at this point in time. So yes, I thought that was an interesting little plot twist in the story, and obviously that's going to play into the whole Miracle Day thing. And this is the thing, we're talking about the relationship between Jack and Angelo and these 3 guys, and clearly this is now we're getting some of the backstory. Episode 7, we're finally getting some of the backstory, and I just wonder how this was plotted out. Like, I'm assuming this was the starting point for the story at some point, or at least it was an early on, right? So this is going to be tied into Jack, and it's going to lead to the Miracle Day. So presuming that they plotted this series out well, I would have thought we'd have had a bit more of this early on, in terms of, even if we just got some flashbacks to Jack and Angelo early on, and we don't know any of this stuff, but we just sort of get the odd... I feel like some of these elements should have been thrown into the story much more early on, like just little breadcrumbs of Jack and Angelo. There was this guy, and we don't even need to know about any of the stuff that we saw at the end of this episode yet, but we could have sort of had that relationship build up in flashbacks over the 7 episodes we've had so far. And I think it it would have made it a bit more, feel a little less rushed, because now we're suddenly getting the backstory. And it would have been nice if they'd have just sort of interspersed a little bit of that early on, I think. So, yes, I was intrigued by the three guys and the fact they bought Jack and all that sort of thing. So, as I said, a bit of a turning point for me, because I was suddenly getting interested in between all this gore and stuff and stuff. I was finally getting interested in what was going on.
Yes.
So, so I was intrigued by those three guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that they've bought Jack, I mean, that's just, like you said, literally bought him like a piece of meat, is interesting. Yeah, to see what happens. What did they do after they bought him? Do they just continually stab him again, or what's going to happen? I don't know.
It's weird, isn't it? Because
what did they buy him for?
Exactly. It's weird because, as far as we know, we have no idea if Jack is able to share his abilities with anybody. So that's never been mentioned or anything like that before. So it's weird that they might somehow tap into that, but just at the very end of Torchwood's life, basically. So then again, that might not be a bad thing. Okay, I've got one more thing on my note before we close out with a score, and that is, we've had episodes before where people have been sidelined. So that's definitely happened in this one. So the Gwen's family back in Wales in the UK, Reese has got, the baby and that sort of thing. And we see PC Andy a little bit. And then in the US and all that stuff, we see Rex and Esther, who are only in it really at the beginning and at the end. Yeah. So they have a little moment and stuff like that. So it really is a Jack and Gwen episode along with Angelo. Do you think that they should have included Rex and Esther a little bit more in terms of, the woman who they meet at the end, who's contacted Gwen to deliver Jack? So that was obviously the big twisty bit at the end. It's like the reveal that Angelo's alive and knows of Jack and wants to see him and stuff. But do you think maybe that should have happened earlier on and included those guys? Or did you think, it was cool, just the Jack and Gwen? Because it got to a point where it was like 40 minutes in, or 35, 40 minutes in, and I thought, okay, we're going sort of this to and from, back and round in circles a little. We've already done this bit, so it's like we'll see Jack and Gwen in the car and they have a mini argument, and then it cuts to the flashback, and that's the actual story of the episode. And then we'll go back to the car, they'll have another mini argument, and then so I felt like that was okay. It's like, it's almost like this, I'm no expert on this stuff, but I assume in terms of how you tell a story, in terms of television or audio, whatever, that's kind of like a question and answer method of telling a story, where you've got people talking about something and then we go back and see the answer to what they've just said, or something like that. I just felt like they probably could have wrapped that way of doing it a bit early on and included those guys earlier, but it's a small criticism really. But yeah,
no, I think I know what you mean, because it does feel like a bit of a quick solution. They just suddenly turn up at the end. They literally guess, or she guesses that something's not right with Gwen, and they check the lenses and they can see the conversation, and suddenly, the police burst in and save Reese and Gwen's mum and dad. It's a very quick wrap up, and they're suddenly on. They've managed to get there before Gwen and Jack, even though they probably would have left afterwards. So they managed to get to the cliff top and before them. It was a very quick wrap up, and to be honest, if you looked into it too deeply, it doesn't really work. So it might have made sense to have just had a couple of little scenes where they're just figuring out something's not quite right, so that they do manage to get there before Gwen and Jack, because it did feel a little bit like, well, hang on, how did those guys get there so quick and get guns aimed at the people and they're all ready to go, and Gwen and Jack have been in the car like longer before them. Anyway, but so yes, I think it was a bit of a quick wrap up, and a couple of tiny little scenes would have just broken that up quite nicely, I think, if we'd have had a bit more of them figuring it out and trying to get there before Gwen and Jack, maybe. So yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, and it would have broke up the episode a little bit as well.
Yeah, it would do. It would have done. Yes. Okay. Anything else on your notes, bud?
No, it was just the only thing I'd got left really was just I like the fact that, like you mentioned it, that the Jack wanting to be like the Doctor, and I don't know if it is intentional, but did you notice that scene? But when I say Jack wanting to be like the Doctor, I don't mean like the Master wanting to be like the Doctor. I mean Jack wanting a companion to travel with him.
Yeah.
Did you think it was intentional when Jack puts on almost like a 10th Doctor coat, like that beige long jacket? I thought, is that Jack trying to be like the Doctor?
I think so.
Did you think that as well?
Yeah, because he also said to Angelo, look, the first rule or something is, and then he shouts run, and then the Murray Gold music kicks in and they go running off down the corridor. So yeah, I do think he wants to be a little bit like the Doctor at that point.
Yeah, definitely. Now, my only other note was I like the fact it started on Ellis Island, because I went there very briefly while I was in New York. We literally jumped off a boat, whizzed around the museum and got back on the boat because we were running out of time. And so just to see Ellis Island at the start, and I couldn't work out, having been inside that building, I'm pretty sure they didn't really film it there. It's just an establishing shot, but they did a blimmin' good job of making what was presumably Cardiff look like the inside of that building, because I did even question, is that actually, because it looked a lot like the building inside, so they did a great job with it. And the only other note I've got, mate, is obviously on the DVDs, you won't get this because if you watch it on BritBox, where on the DVDs you get these little intros by Barrowman and RTD, and they give you an intro to the episode. It's really
It's
weird.
cheesy,
It's like a little teaser thing. They must have put it out in America or something at the time, where they go, so this episode, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and they're being really enthusiastic to try and build up the episode before you watch it. Very unneeded, but Barrowman did say this is one of his favourite episodes.
We wonder why.
Yeah. Oh, he's so enthusiastic about it, and I thought, okay. So yeah, Barrowman loves this one. Can't imagine why. But,
no idea why he loves it. Yeah.
No.
Anyway.
And the guy who played Angelo, we didn't really talk about him, but he does give a good performance this, and I thought I recognised him. It was bugging me all the way through. Where have I seen that guy before? I know that guy. And I Googled him afterwards, and he's not really done anything before or since. So I must be confusing him with someone else, I feel. But I thought he gave a good little performance in this. So I'm kind of hoping we see, well, I wouldn't say more of him, because we've seen quite a lot of him in terms of, him being naked a lot of the time. But I mean, I hope we see more of his character in the next couple of episodes, because I thought he was gave a good performance.
He did, yes, yeah. And to be honest with you, he hasn't really done much in the way of...
No, he's done nothing. I reckon I'm thinking of someone else. What's his name?
Actually, I say nothing. He hasn't really done anything in terms of British speaking stuff,
right.
But he has done lots of things in his native tongue. So lots and lots of Italian television and films and stuff.
Sure, I've seen him in something.
Yeah.
What's his name, mate?
It's Daniele, or Daniel, Favilli. Yes.
Favilli, yeah.
Yeah. He was cool, though. He was all right.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah. Okay, then. And very quickly, we got the Trickster mentioned, the Trickster Brigade, which was a nice little carryover from the Sarah Jane Adventures rather than Doctor Who. You know, when they open up the case and they see the parasite, the little worm thing that was brought in for the president, you know, Jack immediately recognises it and he's like, yep, this is planted here by the Trickster Brigade and blah, blah, blah. So that was quite nice.
Yeah, I liked that bit of the story as well, because again, it's sort of a bit X-Filey and very much sort of Torchwood evolved that, having this sort of a proper, it wasn't CGI either, was it? It was like a proper puppet monster, and I liked that a little bit.
Yes, it was cool. Rightio then, dude. Scores on the doors. I'm going to go first. I'm going to give this, buddy. I'm going to give this a 7.5 because I thought it was a good solid little watch, and there was just a few criticisms from me that were like, you know, I felt like things went on a little bit too long. They could have done this a bit more. Blah blah blah. The usual stuff. But I thought it was a good watch, and it's brought the intrigue back a little bit. That I think will be a nice stepping stone to the next episode.
Yeah, that's a good shout, mate. I agree with that. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So I'm a little bit lower than you, but a 7 out of 10. Mostly because I was squirming a lot of the time during this. But yes, 7 out of 10, mate. It was a good story, I thought.
Yes.
And I'm not, although I may not be loving Miracle Day, I'm certainly not. I think I gave up watching this when it was on TV. So I don't even know I don't remember watching this episode before. I have a feeling I may have given up by this point when it was on TV. And I'm slowly sort of getting back invested in it. So, yeah, I hope it's got a good payoff. That's what I keep thinking. Like, we keep getting these good little moments in this otherwise quite hard-going series. So, yeah, this was a good stepping stone, like you said.
Good stuff. Right, a 7.5 from me then, a 7 from him. What did our listeners think? We only had a few. We had a few over on the Twitter, so thank you very much. We had Chippy T. Now, Chippy T has not been a fan of Torchwood thus far. And his little mini review reflects that. He says, please let it stop. Gruesome and unnecessarily bloody. Seems to add little to the story beyond a shock horror edge. 2 out of 10, and I'm being generous.
I don't know. It did add a little bit, I feel. It did add some stuff, but yeah, it was a bit gory, mate. I agree. A
little bit, yes. Will Sanger at TardisNet66 says, it does spice things up a bit, going into Jack's past and add some personal stakes with Gwen. However, it feels like the relationship between Jack and Angelo isn't given enough breathing room, and there isn't enough of a believable emotional connection between the two.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like it was rushed in. But you can't really do that over a number of episodes because we're running out of episodes. We're running out of them. So, but yeah, we understand what you're saying, Will. Yeah, bang on. And then lastly, Sarah Louise, the running Whovian, says, always good to learn more about Jack's backstory. And I thought Angelo was an interesting character. It will be good to see how things develop. I do get bored of the constant hookups, though. Gwen was her usual kick-ass self, and no surprise that Esther and Rex helped at the end. A 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10, okay. Yeah, that's cool, Sarah.
A 6 and a 2. And then 7s from us. Interesting. Okie dokie. So that's Torchwood then. Episode 7, Immortal Sins. That's all done and dusted. Next week, we're going to backtrack and do what we should have done this week. And what is that, dude?
Yeah, so we will try and get the Silurian 7-parter, the John Pertwee story, watched, and then we'll be reviewing that next week.
Next weeky indeed, yes. So get your classic DVDs out, get your BrickBox fired up, whatever you need to do, get the Silurians watched, because we'll be asking for your thoughts and your scores out of 10 and mini thoughts and everything next week. And until then, bud, let's wrap it there for episode 364.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much for coming back and listening to another episode of the Big Blue Box podcast, assuming that you listened to last week, of course. If this is the first time that you've listened to the show, then welcome aboard the TARDIS. Make sure that you're following and subscribing to this podcast in your preferred podcast app of choice. Just do a search for the Big Blue Box podcast, or head over to a bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk/listen. That will give you links to go off to all the common things where you can join the show over there on the website, which is just bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all the episodes there for free, plus you can check out and read all of the cool articles and reviews from our writing team. Those guys are very cool. We are on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, so come and get involved in there. Plus we have an awesome free Discord server. There's a link on the website, go and check that out and come and chat Doctor Who with lots of other cool Who fans. Also, don't forget to check out my co-host channel over on YouTube. It's called The Geek's Handbag.
Yes, plenty of videos on The Geek's Handbag. Go and have a look, and I'm working on a new one right now. Well, very soon. So go and have a look. Also on the socials, Insta, Twitter, Facebook, all those. So you can find me on there.
Indeedy, yes. New stuff from Adam is always good. So The Geek's Handbag, there's a link on the website to that as well, actually, so just click that. That'll drop you over to YouTube. And Adam's on the socials too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag, all the things, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, to go and stalk him and chat Doctor Who and other sci-fi goodness for all that stuff. Rightio, until next week for 365, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember, Aaaaaaaallons-y.